Back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is October 11th, 2020. Leah obviously had one last minute thought that she wanted to add to our show, but we have so much to bring you today, as always.
Yes.
But when you sent me the title, which I always tweak a little bit, every point that you hit, I kept going, oh, well, that's good news. Well, that's good news. We've got the WHO backing out or reversing their stance on the lockdowns, which we don't trust the WHO to start with. But if even they're, walking back the lockdown idea, then that's good, right? Then we've got the World Economic Forum and Davos postponing. We're gonna weigh whether they're getting cold.
Be in Davos. I think they're gonna. I think they want a whole new. It's like Monsanto getting a new name. They're now under Bayer.
Oh, right.
So if it's not Davos anymore, it's at another place.
Right. And then they call it something else.
Yeah, but it takes a while for the rest of the conspiracy theorists to track on. And then, so, hey, we didn't do Davos this year. No, you did your whole World Economic Forum global elite meeting somewhere else. And they're going to do it in the spring of 2021.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah, so we're gonna cover that. And I want you guys to stick with me because I have an amazing theory. I know a lot of you are always asking. Maybe a lot of you have your own theories that you were sold on. Why the push for the global elites to increase migration from the Muslim countries, from Africa into Europe? It doesn't make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of jobs to be filled. Why? And I think I have a pretty good grasp on this.
I'm excited to hear about this.
And I'm excited to share it with you. If you guys didn't see our video
yesterday, we got to interview. Well, okay, yesterday we played the thing. It was Wednesday. We got to interview a leader in the opposition party to Mugabe's party. Okay, his vice president's the president now.
Yeah.
In Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And we're going to play that video at the end of the show.
Exactly.
So
make
stick
Zimbabwe
around for that.
great again. Make Africa great again. We have to switch our mindset. And I have always wanted to do this, and I've been trying to do this because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So we can cover the fact that, no, it's wrong to have illegal migrants come in, to live off the government, to take over hotels, to upset the social cohesion, because it's not an integration process. It's not real immigration. Is when your whole family decides, we want to go to a different country or a different state or a different place, and we're going to put our roots down and we are going to be immersed in that culture.
Yeah.
So if I decide that my family and I are going to move to Egypt, I'm going to immerse myself in the Egyptian culture. I'm not going to go and change it. I'm not going to try and go and upset things. I'm not going to go rob stores and harass people. So the idea of immigration, and it's been turned upside down on its head, and the global elites and the leftists are using a proper definition for immigration to apply to something that isn't real immigration, because a lot of these people are just coming to work and then they send money back, or they're going to go back. Right. A real immigrant decides, I want to go be part of this country. Yeah. I'm going to go be part of this. I'm going to take on that nationality. So when people, Italians, come to America, you've talked to some who are second generation Italians. Who come over here. I came to American. I am American now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here to be American, right? So if you're gonna go to Poland, you're there to be Polish.
That doesn't mean that you have to leave behind who you are. The Italians, our friend, one of our best friends is Italian. Her family's Italian. Okay, but she's a New Yorker. Yeah. But she's a New Yorker first. You know what I mean? Like, you embrace where you came from, where your family came from, but then you also embrace where you are now.
Our grandfather came from Sweden, okay? I don't go around saying, hey, I'm Swedish. I don't even know anything about Sweden, really, And he didn't really. He came to be an American, okay? So when you immigrate, you go to be part of that country, all right? So what's happening right now is not immigration. Okay, so it's something else, and I don't even believe it's not an invasion. It's something entirely different, and I haven't come up with the right word yet. It's a switch. There's a switch happening, and I'll get to my punchline later. But before that, Majid Nawaz has been on the front lines of calling out the hypocrisy surrounding the entire world who pretends to be woke in their religion of wokeness. We're going to kind of cover that today. What does it mean? This religion of wokeness is that there is a set idea, there's set rules, and you can't go outside of the boundaries. And if something isn't part of their catechism, then it's not part of their religion. And so what's not part of their catechism, what's not part of their religion is anything against China. And so if there are literal slaves in China, that's not okay. You're not woke. That's right. Not part of the woke movement.
Right.
That must be okay.
Right.
It's very interesting because in the South in America, you did have Christians trying to use the Bible to justify slavery, and you have in the religion of wokeness people justifying LeBron James. Okay, that's just what they do over there. Right. You have world leaders praising China for what they're doing, praising them. Okay.
Because, while they turn a blind eye.
Because the economy is their religion. It's almost as if it's a crusade to them.
Sure.
Right? So, and it was very interesting, is that in this religion of wokeness, they decry capitalism while using capitalism.
I know.
The religion of wokeness is, we could define it as a religion of confusion. They say one thing out their mouth, but they do something completely different.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in a $14 million home saying capitalism is the problem, and they're making $1 million deals with Netflix saying capitalism is the problem, and we need redistribution of wealth.
They need that money so that they can be the voice.
I can do a little math.
And be the platform.
Right? I can do a little math. If they just gave away, if when they bought their house, for $1 million, a $1 million home is a pretty nice home, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
They could buy 13 more people
a $1 million
home.
Whoa.
And then let's say the average home here in America, let's say a really good average home, like a really nice home in the really nice neighborhoods, $250.
Mm-hmm.
Divide that by 4.
Yeah.
Okay. They could provide 50, 60, 100 people with decent average homes. Hey, they could live in one of these nice little neighborhoods in a $300,000 home, and they'd be happy. I've been in them. $300,000, $400,000, big, nice, good homes. But no. 14 million. Same thing with Barack Obama and Michelle.
Right.
Decrying capitalism and the climate change.
But what's so funny,
climate change, living on the here's the thing. You can't get more East Coast than Martha's Vineyard.
Right.
If you're worried about the seas rising,
yeah.
Why are you on the
But they'll move once the seas really do start to rise.
It's a pretty bad investment. They have a $14 million mansion too. Here's the thing: you put your money where your mouth is. If you believe that if nothing changes, then the seas are going to rise. Then you're $14 million. Why aren't you in the middle? Why aren't you in Colorado building a mansion in a mountain?
Because then the snow would melt and flood.
Stop it. Okay.
No, but what is so sad about those that follow these people is that they have kind of almost like a
it's a cult. It's
a subjection. Like they are the subjects.
Yeah.
And they need that because they are the higher power.
Mm-hmm.
And they are our leaders. And they need those things because if without a $14 million home, they couldn't get the message out. You know what? They'd still have a cell phone.
It's like this. Like Oprah Winfrey is one of the richest people in the entire world, not just women, not just black people, one of the richest people, and she comes out and says black people need a voice, and I'm just like, ever since I was born, people have been turning on the TV to listen to you, woman. Listen to Oprah. That's what people did. That's what a bunch of white people did. They turned on Oprah to listen to what this black woman had to say. But Montel Williams.
But here's the thing. Here's the hypocrisy in that. She is so rich that she could literally be African Americans a voice. She could get like a television channel and just call it the African American Voice and let anyone come and just say whatever they want. It's like she could buy you a voice to give you a platform, and people would watch. People would totally watch, but she doesn't care about your voice.
Neither does Meghan Markle. They don't care about your voice. They care about your anger. They care about harnessing anger. They don't know how to harness joy. They don't know how to and actually, I take that back. Oprah Winfrey got rich on harnessing joy.
True.
And now that she's rich, she's turning it on people and smacking them over the head with it like a dead fish.
Okay,
Majid. They made her rich. Okay, so speaking of making people rich, okay, China has been made rich partly on the backs of the Xinjiang region.
Yes.
Uyghurs. They are ethnic like Turks. They're Muslims. They're not. They're completely different ethnically.
They're beautiful.
Completely different ethnically from the Han Chinese. And actually, we've talked about forced sterilization. I'm talking about forced marriage, where Han Chinese men are told to go get a wife and go get a woman and start making Han Chinese babies with these Muslim Turkestan Uyghurs. It's absolutely insane. So you do have Parliament is going to discuss in the UK putting sanctions on China because of the Uyghurs, because of Majid Nawaz. Now this is a bipartisan thing, and what I love about Majid is that he plays it straight. He's a lefty. Mm-hmm. He believes more socialism.
Right.
He believes in inclusion, different things like that. However, Majid Nawaz is one of the unicorns. He is a diamond in the rough in which he is normal. Whoa. He is rational.
Right.
Okay? So he'll look at things from all sides.
Right.
And he just doesn't just go with something because it's the left. And I love him for it. So we're gonna dive into this. Here we have some calls on the Uyghur crisis here on his show on LBC.
Is to publicly oppose China's election to the UN Human Rights Council later next week. Number 2 is to introduce Magnitsky legislation.
Again, all the really bad countries are in the UN's Human Rights Council.
And he's speaking to a conservative MP right now, Nusrat Ghani.
Just referenced.
Yeah.
Number 3, undertake an assessment of whether China's actions constitute a violation of the 1984 Convention Against Torture. Number 4, UK to support the UN International Law Commission's draft convention on the prevention and punishment of crimes against humanity. And number 5, take cross-Whitehall action to ensure UK businesses conduct thorough due diligence on supply chains. What's your reaction to Lisa Nandy's 5 recommendations to the Foreign Secretary?
I agree with all those 5, and I've added 6, and independent tribunals being set up and being led by Jeffrey Nice QC, who's done tremendous work in this area previously, and the government should welcome and engage with Jeffrey Nice and his tribunal, which will no doubt collect all the evidence in a very balanced way, and considering what we do know, we'll be able to substantiate the abuses that are taking place. I think what's quite hard for the public to understand is the level of abuse, Majid. It just seems too much to be true, that millions of people can be incarcerated, that children can be removed from their parents and be re-educated, that women have a choice. They can have a choice to either be sterilised or be moved into a camp, that the Chinese government can put men, into families' home to make sure that those families aren't practicing a faith or any other identity other than Han Chinese.
There are allegations that those men are raping the wives of Uyghur men who become detained as well. That the Chinese regime is placing men in the homes of Uyghur wives, raping them while their husbands are in jail.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's not a far link to make. If you have no right as a woman, you have no right to have a family, no right to your husband, and very little right to the property that you're living in. If the Chinese authorities are then moving men into your home, those men will have absolute right over you. That isn't that difficult.
They're moving men into these women's homes.
But you mentioned something quite early on at the top of your show about children, which was absolutely key.
Yeah.
These aren't children that do not have parents. These are children who have parents, who have been incarcerated. And then these children are being indoctrinated to lose any identity that they have, any identity about their culture and their faith.
500,000 children.
500,000. It's incredibly difficult for people to understand this is happening in this day and age. And if we talk about the genocide element for a moment, people say, well, this is a big term to use, and we should only use it sparingly, and obviously it's a legalistic term. But the birth rate has dropped by 85% for Uyghur women. And we know that there was a promotion of birth control, forced on Uyghur women, which has led to this birth rate drop. And that is a key component of the international community being able to say that a genocide has taken place. And this thing goes back to one of your earlier points, if I may, about the China's role and position at the UN.
Yeah.
The UN is a busted flush for as long as China can veto anyone being allowed to go into Xinjiang and to document what's going on.
It's heartening to see people talking about things. It's great to see conservatives and liberals coming together to talk about this. But it's sad because it's not one of those things that is talked about enough. And it's not something that the whole world is talking about. And we're talking about reparations in the United States from slavery in 1860, the end of our, the beginning of our Civil War, and we have slavery right now, and we're all benefiting from it.
Robin Poe here says, here's a tough subject. Since most of our clothes are made in China, should we boycott clothes made in China? They use prison and slave labor to make these clothes. I don't feel right about buying them. I think it's kind of one of those things where you do the best that you can. If you have the opportunity and the choice to buy something that is not made in China, if what you can buy is available within your price range, and your budget, then do so.
Right.
And if you can't, then what you need to do is be getting the message out there and be praying for the Uyghurs.
And our friend
being used.
We have
in
dear
slave
friends
labor.
who are like, and even Matt will go to Lowe's or Home Depot, and they'll need one bolt, and it's not made anywhere else but in China.
Right.
Okay, so you need the bolt.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we stop talking about it
Exactly.
because that's
I don't like people who say, well, I don't have a right to say anything about it because I do it or whatever. Well, if you're stuck.
You're stuck. You're literally stuck. We're stuck. All right. I don't know why. I always am cautious about the angle of CNN. CNN put this together. Now we do know that our government here in America has seized tons of hair. This hair, a lot of it. The reason they seized the hair to go to black salons for weaves. The reason they seized this hair is because it came from the Xinjiang region.
Right.
So the ethnic Uyghur women are having their hair chopped off because that is a debilitating thing. It's a demoralizing thing, but it's also a thing of great profit.
Yeah.
For
a friend of ours just brought up 1 Corinthians 11 in a subject, and she was asking about, how the Bible talks about women should have long hair. It is a glory to her. People have asked us over since we started having long hair, why do you keep long hair? We're like, well, A, I just like it. B, the Bible says to do it for the angel's sake. No one really knows what that means, but it does say so that the woman should have power on her head.
Yeah.
And that it's a shame for a woman to not have long hair. And if she doesn't have her head covered when she's praying or speaking or prophesying, she might as well be shorn. And that's a shame. Yeah. And they are shaming these women. They are taking something from them that is beyond what you and I would just basically consider, you just cut their hair. What's the big deal?
Right.
This goes deep. It's a spiritual thing.
Right.
Collection of braid hair and crochet hair.
The neighborhood beauty supply store, a fixture of nearly every African American community.
This one? Okay.
Part of an industry that revolves around the business of hair.
The first thing people see a lot of times is our hair.
It's a business worth billions, selling largely to African American consumers.
The business of hair extensions is booming.
Frankisha Watkins, owner of Bee Polished Beauty Supply in Arlington, Texas, says her average customer spends more than $100 a month on hair care.
Growing up as an African-American woman, we're told our hair is our glory.
But even professionals say they know very little when it comes to the origin of all this hair.
This one actually does not list where exactly it's from.
In fact, the majority of it comes from China. Last year, China sold around $1 billion worth of real and synthetic hair to the U.S. This, one of the most intimate parts of a person's body, is also a valuable international commodity that industry insiders refer to as black gold. And this is a sample that I ordered online. It was advertised as untreated Xinjiang human hair, sourced from a part of China that is steeped in allegations of human rights abuses. In July, U.S. Customs and Border Protection delivered a shock to the industry. The seizure of a shipment of around 13 tons of human hair,
That's a
worth
lot of hair.
more than $800,000.
We had a reasonable suspicion that the goods made in the shipment were produced using forced labor in China.
The hair comes from this industrial park in China's northwest Xinjiang region. A Chinese state TV report identifies these factories as part of a government-backed poverty alleviation program. The government has offered tax incentives and cheap labor to investors in the hair factories in what it says is an effort to employ thousands of people like this man.
My goal is to make one more wig every day.
Similar government videos have been made about other factories in Xinjiang, like this apparel factory. But CNN spoke with a woman who worked at the apparel factory, who says the reality was very different from images shown on Chinese state TV.
None of us worked there of our own free will.
Gulzira Awulkhan is an ethnic Kazakh originally from Xinjiang who emigrated to neighboring Kazakhstan. On a return trip to Xinjiang to visit her father in 2017, she says Chinese authorities detained her at the border.
They told me I came from a terrorist country. They cut my hair, took my blood samples.
They cut her hair.
Awulkhan says she was kept in an internment camp, in a cell with 20 to 30 people sharing a bucket for a toilet. Human rights groups and the U.S. government accuse China of a massive detention campaign, rounding up more than 1 million ethnic Uyghur Muslims and members of other ethnic minorities into internment camps. Beijing calls the camps vocational training centers, aimed at eradicating violent extremism. But CNN has heard first-hand testimony from survivors of these internment camps who say they were arbitrarily detained in horrific conditions for months, enduring torture and other indignities like having their hair chopped off. CNN's investigation has not been able to confirm what happens to this shorn hair. But Awulkhan's first-hand account supports the U.S. government accusation some Chinese exports from Xinjiang are being made with forced labor. After surviving 15 months in the camps, unable to return to her husband and child in Kazakhstan, she was ordered to work at a factory, sewing gloves that were exported to the U.S. and Europe.
They told me if I refused, I would be sent back to the camp.
Awulkhan says this image from another Chinese state media report shows her at a sewing machine, while a VIP delegation toured the factory. Her description matches that of this man, Yerzhan Kurman, another ethnic Kazakh who says he spent 9 months in internment camps before being forced to work in the same factory alongside Awulkhan for 2 months.
We couldn't do anything without permission.
Speaking from safety in Kazakhstan after their release, the 2 former detainees have a warning for Western consumers.
I'm against these Chinese products. They are made through slavery. So many people were crying while making these products.
To try to end this alleged modern-day slavery, the U.S. government is now banning imports of some products made with suspected forced labor in Xinjiang, though U.S. officials have not provided evidence, citing an ongoing criminal investigation.
So I say to China, open it up. Just open it up. Let a bunch of people from all over the world into Xinjiang. Is there any place in America that you can't go except for Area 51? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Same place in France. You can walk anywhere in France. You can walk anywhere in the UK. I mean, basically. You can go anywhere in almost any country, okay? But in China...
You mean regionally wise.
Regionally,
Obviously, there's
yeah.
private property and stuff.
Well, yeah. But regionally wise, like, they don't allow you, when you go in, you're watched. They got surveillance stuff. They got everything going on, okay? And they have let, like, one journalist in to kind of, oh, this is what we're doing. We're just re-educating
They get it all
people.
set up.
Like it's okay to re-educate Muslims anyways.
I know. Because they're
like
curbing
it's okay.
terrorism.
Like it's okay.
Can you name how many terrorists have come from the Xinjiang province? Like how many terrorists have they, the Uyghurs, produced?
And you got people like
prone to terrorism
all over the world saying ain't no big thing. China doing good. We're working with China. WHO working with China. Look what China's doing. China's doing a good job. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. Speaking of the WHO,
Robin, to answer, she goes, that's it. If I can't find some clothes, I'm sewing them myself. Honestly, Leah and I get a vast majority of our clothing from secondhand shops.
Yeah, but it's still made in China.
No, I know, but somehow to me it feels like I'm not directly perpetuating the system. It's more indirect. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it gives me that buffer that I feel like I'm not taking my money directly to. And I'm not saying that we always do that. I'm just saying to me it feels a little bit like one step away.
Yeah, all right. Flip-flop, backflip, whatever you want to do, gymnastics, something. What is that WHO doing? Listen, here's the thing, y'all. There's absolutely no reason to take the WHO, the CDC, seriously on anything, okay? It's crazy. Our show condemns coronavirus lockdowns, just doubling the global poverty. So the UK's envoy to the WHO has condemned mass coronavirus lockdowns. Very interesting. You got the horse talking over here and the cow talking over here, and I have an article up that says the UK is looking to do another shutdown of their economy. But their envoy to the WHO has condemned mass coronavirus lockdowns.
Hang on though, isn't
something
this not
afoot?
How many times have we heard the right hand not talking to the left hand in the WHO? Somebody comes out and says masks don't work and they're not effective, and then she has to walk it back and gets like fired.
But I'm talking about the UK's envoy to the WHO. Okay?
I'm just saying.
Who is talking right now? All right. Slamming the ghastly global catastrophe caused by crashing the world economy. Dr. David Nabarro from the WHO appealed to world leaders on Saturday, telling them to stop using lockdowns as your primary control method. And I'm just wondering if the guy in Melbourne, Australia, is going to take heed to this. Because he has said that here's the thing, in Melbourne, Australia, in Victoria, actually, if you are contact traced, if you won't and you refuse a test, they're going to make sure you lock down for 21 days.
Oh my gosh.
If you refuse a test, if your contact trace, say you've been around somebody who has tested positive, you're going to be stuck in your home for 21 days. You don't get a test. This is fascism. It's for real, right? All right. So he claimed that the only thing lockdowns achieve was poverty, with no mention of the potential lives saved. This is a direct contrast to the WHO chief Tedros. I'm not a doctor. Who, as far back as April, gave his full support to the lockdowns and even warned against lifting them too soon. Then in August, Tedros praised several national governments, including the UK, France, South Korea, and Germany, for using all the tools at their disposal to tackle any new spikes, which included regional lockdowns. Speaking to Andrew Neil of The Spectator magazine, Dr. Nabarro bemoaned the collapse of the international tourism industry and claimed there would be a doubling in the levels of world poverty and child malnutrition by 2021, as he warned that lockdowns make poor people an awful lot poorer. I want to say it again. We in the WHO do not advocate lockdowns as a primary means of controlling the virus. I just wonder.
Sometimes balk at the lockdown because it's yet another lockdown. We thought we'd all be over by September, October. It also, as I said, it gets very complicated and so on. But these are quite narrow personal inconveniences. And of course, they can have economic impacts overall too. But we had Professor Sunetra Gupta from Oxford University on, and she was implying, and I'm interested in you because you have a global mandate, a global view, was that a problem we don't think about in lockdowns is that they're very nationalistic. That if we lock down our economy, then it hits our economy. But it also means we are not buying stuff, we're not trading with weaker economies, we are not just destroying our own jobs, we're destroying the jobs of all those that in the poorer parts of the world that export to us. That seemed to me to be a reasonable point.
Really important point by Professor Gupta. I want to say it again. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as a primary means of control of this virus. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted. But by and large, we'd rather not do it. Just look at what's happened to the tourism industry, for example, in the Caribbean or in the Pacific, because people aren't taking their holidays. Look what's happened to smallholder farmers all over the world because their markets have got dented. Look what's happening to poverty levels. It seems that we may well have a doubling of world poverty by next year. We may well have at least a doubling of child malnutrition because children are not getting meals at school and their parents in poor families are not able to afford it. This is a terrible, ghastly global catastrophe, actually. And so we really do appeal to all world leaders. Stop using lockdown as your primary control method. Develop better systems for doing it. Work together and learn from each other. But remember, lockdowns just have one consequence that you must never, ever belittle, and that is making poor people an awful lot poorer.
Indeed, and a rise in world poverty after years and years in which world poverty was falling and falling. And we've reversed.
That's something that I was trying to get across to a friend of mine, is that people in the middle class, in the upper class, I don't know if you can still see me, I have no room for my feet down here. There are 2 dogs laying where I normally stand. They're back to back. They're very comfortable. They are dead asleep. There's no room for my feet. I kept getting squished in. It felt like a squid just kind of squishing me out. It was hilarious.
I can put them upstairs.
No, they're fine. They're happy. Okay, so anyways,
spoiled much?
Talking about the poor, the global poor in each country, they're the ones who are going to suffer the most. They're the ones who already fall through the cracks, and they're falling through the cracks in greater numbers. And it's the elitism of people who still have really great jobs and are still working and still making bank and making it happen is sickening to me. It just bothers me. It hurts my heart. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. What I think, though, you were kind of wondering, like, what is the why the turn around? And I think, honestly, these people have all this money, and they, in their pride and arrogance, they thought that they could withstand the lockdowns in order to get their great reset, you know, to go through. But now they're realizing they require economies to get their money too.
Right.
Okay. Their money doesn't make more money if the economy isn't making more money.
Right.
So they need the economies to be up and running. And I think that they thought that they could do it for a brief period. But now what you're going to talk about in a little bit is them having to push kind of some of their plans forward a little bit. I think that might be playing a little bit into it.
Yeah, I think that the elites are playing with fire. And they're hoping to do a
and
controlled burn.
And they keep singeing. They keep trying to put out the fire.
They're hoping to do a controlled burn, but they're not sure if the Great Reset that they're talking about doing is not just going to just scorch it all. Right? Here's a little article here. Privacy crisis. Contact tracing data from pubs and restaurants has actually been sold to third parties. Experts have warned of a privacy crisis in the UK.
Oh my God.
As contact tracing data. Oh, don't worry, we won't ever sell your email. Just give us all your information. You know, give us your firstborn. Give us your mother's maiden name. You know, give us your social security number.
What's funny, though, is a lot of people are putting down false information on these pubs, though.
Well, yeah.
Pub little slips. Yeah. For those of you that are not in the UK, to go to a pub, which is a big deal, and people do it all the time, you have to write, you know, your name. I think it's not that just pubs, it's probably restaurants. You have to give your name and like telephone number and email.
So
and stuff.
contact tracing in the future, right? If there's an outbreak, right? In pubs and restaurants is reportedly being sold on to third parties for advertising. Data collected for tracking the China virus is mandated by the government to be held by the businesses for only 21 days and not used for any other purposes than the NHS test and trace. However, some contractors are using the QR codes to pilfer names, addresses, email information, and phone numbers, which they in turn sell to advertising and credit card companies as well as insurance brokers. Speaking to the Times, the director of software development company Level 5,
Grav.
If you're suddenly getting loads of text Your data has probably been sold on from track and trace systems. One company supplying the hospitality industry with a QR code-based tracking system is Pub Track and Trace, which states its privacy policy that by using the system, users agree for the company to make suggestions and recommendations to you about goods or services that may interest you.
Okay,
so if you want to eat or drink in the pub and this is your only way in, you have to agree to this.
That's crazy. Okay, so Horatio, says, I refuse to download the app and I've always given false contact information. You probably just put down Horatio McSherry. But you said the QR code, and I guess I wasn't understanding because I was kind of still thinking it's like a wedding or funeral registration where you just write on the line. I didn't know there was an app. Mm. So you've given me extra information here. So you can either choose to do the app.
Yeah.
Or write down your information.
Yeah. So these companies provide track and trace services for restaurants, and the data collects actually is retained for 25 years.
What?
Yeah.
Jim West says, I just zapped the code on my phone. Can't be bothered with filling out forms. No, I would be filling out the form and putting down false contact information. What are they going to do? How are they going to prove you put down false information? And then what are they going to do if they do find out that you did? They'd have to find out while you're still there.
It's pretty crazy. But not only that,
Britboz says Scotland has just told pubs they are not allowed to sell alcohol in pubs now after 6 p.m. What's the point?
Yeah, actually, that was exactly the article I was going to go to. Scotland bans the sale of alcohol inside of pubs. UK pub closures. So Scotland's first.
No, don't do this, Scotland. It's so bad.
Sturgeon has announced that pubs, restaurants, and licensed cafes will be banned from selling alcohol inside for more than 2 weeks. From what I understand, it says the measures will come into effect Friday until at least the 25th of October, with establishments only allowed to sell non-alcoholic drinks and food from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can't get a pint. Okay, not even a pint at all for 2 weeks. You can get non-alcoholic ones from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But
no. You mean be outside of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
No. It says
are only allowed to sell them from 6 a.m.
No, it says with establishments only allowed to sell non-alcoholic drinks and food from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then they're shut down after that. Anyways.
Okay, so then
there's no alcohol being sold. None. Only non-alcoholic food and drink.
So you only can get alcohol for a 4-hour period between 6 and 10?
No, there's no alcohol. No,
it says, however, continue to serve alcohol until the later 10 p.m. curfew.
Outdoor hospital. Well, then they said
outdoor hospitality venues.
Outdoor hospitality may, however, continue to serve alcohol until later to
in Scotland, you can't get a drink at all unless you're outside.
This could be a typo. But it says non-alcoholic drinks from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
We're trying to give news. We don't even know what the news is.
Well, that's what Breitbart says. Okay. Further restrictions have been put in Ayrshire and Arran and Fort Valley, Greater Glasgow and Clyde, and Lancashire and Lothian. How about that? Where all alcoholic licensed premises must shut down completely. You're done. You're over. According to the Mirror, Scots in these areas have been asked to avoid using public transportation unless absolutely necessary.
This seems like a whole societal shift. I mean, they're Scottish. I mean, that's what you do. You drink. I mean, this is like...
I feel like it's hilarious to me. It's hilarious. It's a re-education of the mind.
Why?
It's a re-education
of
the mind.
What does alcohol have to do with coronavirus?
It's a control measure. It's a control measure. It's to control your mind, to see how far they can push you. It's a test. It's a test. This is only a test.
It's the test that's not going to be received well. You know, if you are an alcoholic, you can't stop drinking or your body can shut down and go into fits.
You can buy it at the store.
Fits.
I'm sure you can buy it at the
store.
store.
Well, what if you're a pub alcoholic? What if you only get your alcohol at the pub? I'm just saying, this whole thing, and we don't drink. We don't even really believe in drinking, but I am all for your right to do so, and this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
gosh. You don't do it in Scotland. If they did it in Ireland, I don't even know what would happen. Fires.
Yeah.
Fires. Oh my gosh.
All right, Farage says post-Brexit Britain needs Trump, but Boris government actually woos Biden. Brexit leader Nigel Farage tied Britain's post-Brexit success to the re-election of President Donald Trump, warning that should the 77-year-old Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden prevail, then the hopes of the British-American free trade deal would be dashed. And that is true. That is true. The left has been anti-Brexit from the very start. Obama came over here, told you will be at the back of the line if you do Brexit. Nanny, 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 boo-boo. Okay? And so they will stick it to you. You really, as the UK, if you pray, you should pray. Writing in the Sunday Express, Mr. Farage referenced a poll conducted by the same British paper which saw the president leading in battleground states. He says you might even call it fake news that the media are getting it wrong again.
Britt Baza says, Michelle, the funny thing is that supermarkets can sell alcohol through all night long in the 24-hour stores.
That's funny.
I don't think you can here. I think after you get cut off at 2 a.m.
Back in 2016, I stuck my neck out and only backed the Trump campaign, but also not only backed the Trump campaign, but also predict that he would win. This was treated with much hilarity at the time from the great and the good. I think that those same people are all in for another shock on November 3rd. Mr. Farage hailed President Trump's foreign policy successes, in particular the peace agreement signed between Israel and UAE and Bahrain, as well as keeping the United States out of more endless wars. And he also pointed to Trump's support for Britain and the pro-sovereignty Brexit movement. I know a lot of you are like, I don't really care for Trump and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? He's going to help you make a good trade deal. Speaking of the UAE, this is kind of a historic move here. Never again. It's pretty cool. Vows the UAE, the United Arab Emirates foreign minister at the Berlin Holocaust Memorial.
Wow.
Yeah, Israel and the UAE's top diplomats visited the Holocaust Memorial in central Berlin on Tuesday in a historic first meeting between the newly allied foreign ministers. Gabi Ashkenazi, oh, that's unfortunate, and Emirati counterpart Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, can we just pick one name, joined, can we just call you Abdu, all right, joined German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas to discuss bolstering trade, tourism, and security between the Middle East nations. At Al Nahyan's suggestion, the diplomats made a stop at the memorial. A whole group of humanity fell victim to those calling for extremism and hatred. Al Nahyan wrote in the visitor's book at the site. The visit, he wrote, underscored the importance of human values such as coexistence, tolerance, and accepting the other, as well as respect for all creeds and faiths. These are values upon which my country was founded. I salute the souls of those who fell victim to the Holocaust. Al Nahyan wrote. He went on to quote a Jewish prayer translated into Arabic. May their souls be bound up in the binds of life. Never again, he wrote. And I just find that to be...
You might take your spot now. So
oh, look at that. I got a spot back. And just so we're clear on this.
Clear.
Donald Trump helped broker this peace treaty and this peace deal. And the left says, I feel like the country will be more unstable with another 4 years of Donald Trump. ISIS, pretty much gone. At least the fire, you know, got a little fires here and there, but down. Remember the 27...
Whoa, you have a yellow jacket on your head. No, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Oh my gosh. When I say you have a yellow jacket on your head, don't reach for it.
Where is it?
It's still there. Wait, don't move.
You're going to kill a yellow jacket on my head on air. No. Lord have mercy. Okay. What are you going to do? Kill it?
I guess I'll take it outside.
Kick it outside? A yellow jacket. I feel like I've just been de-wigged. I didn't actually do my hair to be warm without a hat today. But I guess there it is. She just took my hat off. And there we're gone. See, you never know what you're going to get on a show. And I know that's why you come. There goes the yellow jacket and the hat. You know, we can't do a show without something stupid happening. Like, you have to, like, put the timestamp.
I think your hair looks nice.
I think you got to put the timestamp down. When did the stupid thing happen? Okay, timestamp 2:15. The stupid thing happened. All right, it's over. So you only get one in show. All right.
Robin says your hair looks fine to me.
Okay. All right. Here is Dellingpool Boris's craziest stunt yet. Craziest stunt yet? Do you think it's the craziest stunt yet? I don't know. He wants every UK home to be powered by wind in 10 years, by 2030. The wind is gonna come right out of his mouth
or his behind.
Yep, blowing smoke, Boris.
First of all, does he not know that those wind turbines are actually not good for the environment? What's more, they cause headaches. They kill birds.
Yeah.
I mean, they are bad for you. They are really bad.
Thing, and I think this is a good segue because I got a lot of stories I want to cover, a lot of little stories. But the main one that I want to bring to you is the Davos movement, the elite movement, the World Economic Forum, the climate change crazies. And I hammer this, and I want to hammer this every single dang day and show. They are insane. They are insane. Can I say that one more time? They don't want to reduce, reuse, recycle. They don't want, their definition of sustainability is not the true definition of sustainability. The definition of sustainability is when I have animals on my farm who produce manure, and then I put the, I take the manure, I compost it down, I put it back in my garden, and then it's a cycle. If I take a tree, I plant a tree. That's sustainable. No. They have put their hopes in a new religion, and it's called technology.
Mm-hmm.
And their religion of technology is actually a vision of a communist utopia that actually Chairman Mao embraced and Stalin embraced, and it goes back to the roots of communism and Karl Marx. They were envisioning like robot nations where people didn't have to work anymore.
Right. One of these dogs,
number 2 crazy thing,
has broke a very vile wind. Speaking of wind, and it is so bad. We have 4 dogs down here.
Lord have mercy. There's your wind turbine. Why did the dog bring wind on our segment on wind turbines?
My gosh! And why is it that dog wind always smells like the same thing? I mean, it doesn't ever change.
Why can't we power the world on dog wind? Huh?
This show is just divulged.
All right.
Hang on, I need to clarify for people what a yellow jacket is. They were asking in the chat. They here in the United States, they can get mistaken for a honeybee only because of their size and the stripes,
and they can sting over and over again.
But they are a wasp, and so they don't lose their stingers when they sting you, and they are they can live in the ground. You often see them around trash cans at football games and so on and so forth.
All right, here's the relevant portion of Bojo's wind turbine speech. And there's one area where we are progressing with gale force speed. And that is the green economy. The green industrial revolution that in the next 10 years will create hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs. I can today announce that the UK government has decided to become the world leader in low-cost, clean power generation, cheaper than coal, cheaper than gas. And we believe that in 10 years' time, offshore wind will be powering every home in the country, with our target rising from 30 gigawatts to 40 gigawatts. You heard me right. Your kettle, your washing machine, your cooker, your heating, your plug-in electric vehicle, and the whole lot of them will get their juice cleanly and without guilt.
Without
breezes
guilt,
that blow around these islands.
Not without guilt. Somebody was saying they even came. They're just, it's so bad.
This is amazingly embarrassing. Unfortunately, it's not a good sign of how good the speech is by having everybody excited about it, but how terrifyingly bad. You have Zach Goldsmith saying that this is a phenomenal speech. Goldsmith is part of the small but influential eco-fascist clique within the Conservative Party determined to drag it kicking and screaming in the direction of the Greens.
Who's down by the camera?
Sober analysis comes from the independent think tank, the Global Warming Policy Foundation, which estimates that the cost of this green revolution will be to increase electricity prices by 200%. Ignoring clear evidence that the underlying economics of renewables are disastrous, the Prime Minister has today committed the UK to a further expansion of offshore wind power by 2030. The frightening implications for electricity prices, which would have to treble with trebles. to pay the real cost. This is not only economically foolish, but incoherent climate policy, since today's decisions will ensure that other low-emission goals, such as the electrification of vehicles and domestic heating, become unaffordable for most Britons. Despite the wind industry's smoke and mirrors, offshore wind remains an extremely expensive way of generating electricity. Meeting the Prime Minister's target will actually increase current costs still further because of the need to build turbines. These things are giant, right? And they don't last forever, and they don't break down. They're made of fiberglass.
Turbine graveyards?
Yeah,
I mean, and the fossil fuels that have to be used to create the wind
and
turbines.
What is this promise of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs? Okay, the implications for net employment are also devastating. Subsidy may create some soft UK jobs in the wind industry and many more in China and the Middle East, where wind turbines are made, but will not offset the real loss of UK jobs and other businesses that will no longer be viable because of the high energy costs. In a study in 2009, Gabriel Calzada for the Universidad Rey Juan Carlos in Madrid found that for every green job created by the government spending on renewables, 2.2 jobs are destroyed in the real economy.
So I actually have answers for this. Okay. Holland has done a good job of more individual, windmills. Right? I'm all for windmills. What we are rich in and what is completely safe to do are water mills, and I'm even in favor of small dams that create power. Our entire country and many other countries, the whole world, is littered with rivers, and you could use them to harness the power far more, and what I'm thinking is more locally, right? So not like a big giant like the Hoover Dam, but like we live in Milford. The river was, you can put as many mills on the river as you want to. Individual houses could. You know what I'm saying? Just that much alleviation off of the grid would reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. But they aren't thinking that way. Why? Because it's old school.
Yeah. In 2013, actually, Boris Johnson knew the limitations of wind. He's told LBC, Labour put in a load of wind farms that failed to pull the skin off of rice pudding. He said, we now have the opportunity to get shale gas. Let's look at it.
Whatever rice, what is like a rice pudding? What's the skin off of a rice pudding?
A pudding has like a sheet. It's the thin layer on pudding when you make homemade pudding.
But I didn't know that you can peel it off.
Okay, well, just work with me. He said, we now have the opportunity to get shale gas. Let's look at it. It is part of the 2020 vision we have for the city. Power generation is vital. He said, how some people used to sneer at wind power 20 years ago and say that it wouldn't pull the skin off of rice pudding. That they forgot the history of this country. So he literally said, it won't pull the skin off of rice pudding. And then he said, some people used to sneer at it. It was him. Like, this is politician speak. That's at the utmost craziness. And why is this? Boris Johnson is not. I've never been a fan. I don't like him. I feel like he just kind of talks out of both sides of his mouth. But here's Boris Johnson, and this is the big key. And I want you to kind of take away some of this. Some of this as your takeaway. We have a consumption problem that no one's talking about. That we all are powered and live by electricity. And we need to get back to more natural things. I have a human powered grain mill. And it's hooked up to a bicycle. I plug it in, there's no electricity there.
That could be retrofitted to like power anything, a food processor, or what do you make all your shakes in, the blender?
The Amish have a 1 horsepower thingy, and they use it on their
all their power tools. They have a treadmill that their horses walk.
It's amazing,
and it powers and it through gears.
So I'm just wondering why we don't invest more in the small human powered things that that you can run.
It's essentially a PTO.
So if you look
just
at
like
any
a PTO
farm,
for anything.
If you look at any farm, right, there are handheld tools, handheld drills, handheld everything. And the PTOs, exactly what you're talking about. You can power a lot of things with the PTO, but getting those made does take some technology and some,
right.
It does take help. Not every man can make every tool, right? That's why you always had a blacksmith. And so the if you're going to invest in something, this is what I don't understand. We're investing and we're just giving people fish. We're not investing in teaching people how to fish or making people themselves sustainable and helping them to helping us all to reduce our energy costs. There's a lot of things that can be done. The Amish truck in ice, or they make ice in the winter, and they have their refrigerator and their freezer, and they make a big giant ice house. Okay, ice houses used to be a thing. Now I have a friend of mine who wants to do ice chest again. She's going all like it's amazing what she does. But here's the thing: but see, there's no money in that.
Right.
There's no money in people being self-sustainable, right?
It is all about money.
I appreciate that somebody makes glass jars. That's great, right? Because it helps me be sustainable. Because I can take that jar and I can use it, and I can use it, and I can use it, I can use it, I can use it, and it's not, and even when it breaks down or it cracks, it's not a pollutant to the world, to the earth. The earth says, oh, bring me your glass. I'll break it down. The sand is like little shards, So, but with plastic, that's what I'm getting to right now.
Okay.
The UK is still shipping plastic waste to poorer countries despite conservative pledge. So Boris Johnson wants to create more things, more stuff, bigger stuff it feels like it's a tornado that just sucks life out of the earth. That the green people are sucking life because they need things. They need like uranium, they need gold, they need silver, they need copper, they need it for the computer chips, they need it for their surveillance, they need it for their new green revolution is not green. Right. They are the biggest hypocrites on the face of the planet. The plastic use of everything, okay? I don't want to ban it. I want to put it in your brain. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable. Okay, so while the green, Boris Johnson, we want to have green energy. That is what we call virtue signaling. I'm just going to put a little smoke signal out there, but I don't really have a fire.
So tell me about them shipping their waste to other countries.
So more than 300 tons a day. Thank you, Bert Bonza, for sending this to me. A day, 300 tons a day of plastic scrap has been sent to non-OECD countries so far in 2020. The UK has continued to send plastic waste to developing countries despite widespread concerns about increased plastic pollution and a Conservative Party manifesto. The Environment Bill would have given ministers powers to ban waste exports to low and middle income countries, but the legislation was withdrawn during the pandemic. There is now confusion whether it will be put to Parliament at all. Meanwhile, official trade data reports of plastic waste to a number of countries, including Malaysia, Romania, Vietnam. So they pay these countries a minimum thing, but it's big to them, to take the trash. The news comes months before new international restrict the export of low-quality plastic waste to non-members of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development come into force in January. The OECD is an intergovernmental body made up of high-income nations, which aims to boost global trade. The Conservatives pledged to stop sending plastic waste to non-OECD countries during the 2019 general election so as to reduce the environmental impact on the oceans as well as developing countries, because that's what they're going to put them.
Right.
Okay. They have some recycling facilities, but a lot of it just goes back into the ocean. Same thing with sending plastics to China.
Jim West says, I think you can burn plastic cleanly, but it costs a lot for the machines. And I think you're right about that. I think that the answer here isn't so much like you said, like banning plastic straws like they try to do in California, or banning plastics, but to use alternative sustainable products when at all possible. Okay, Barry wants me to play, and I will go ahead and do so. He says, Michelle, please play this video on the UK. I don't know if we have time to play the whole thing, but we can definitely play part of it. The electric mountain in the UK.
Here we have, I'm going to finish this.
That's fine.
Plastic waste exports to Thailand, which have shot up in months immediately after the China ban, fell by 56% from January to July, and the country has moved to ban imports of foreign rubbish. Look at these piles here. Look at the pile of just horrible horrible pollution that you say, oh, we're a clean country.
Yeah, no.
Because we're sending, we recycle. Everybody collects their plastics, but you don't have the facilities to recycle.
Right.
And actually, I'm going to tell you something. Why aren't they spending millions of dollars for the recycling facilities? Because our recycling facility the Rumpke, gave away, or we have our recycling picked up for free now because they said that they're actually making money on recycling plastic.
Right.
So it's pretty sad. Tons and tons of quality plastic, and it's littering these third world countries. And this is.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Fully Charged. This time coming from beautiful North Wales. As you can tell, the weather is really blessing us with its charms. It's a little bit rainy and wet, but we're not worried about that because we're going inside a mountain. Yes, you heard right, inside a mountain. This behind me is Dinorwig, and it is one of the first and possibly one of the largest pumped storage facilities in the entire European area. So 600 metres above us at the top of the mountain that we're literally underneath. It's extraordinary. There is a lake, and that lake has got water in it. The water comes down 600 metres down a big tube, lots of big tubes, and it comes down to here. This is the valve. This is how they turn it on or off. At the moment it is open. Those yellow weights behind me, they are 15 tonnes each. There's 2 of them on each valve, and that allows the valve to be closed. So you imagine the enormous pressure of that water coming down 600 metres. It's incredibly powerful, and they can close it off in 20 seconds using those 2 counterweights to help close the valve, and then they can open it and the water pushes it open, lifts the weights up. So at the moment it's open and it's running. You can hear that the water's gushing through there, and it's running the turbines in the turbine hall there. Absolutely colossal structure. We've driven like half a mile through the mountain to get here. It's unbelievable scale.
Talking about water power.
So they're producing electricity in the mountain.
Yes, water. Using gravity. I'm so glad y'all are filming this so that I don't have to film because I'm not.
So Grant, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. I mean, I've always wanted to come and see this. This is an amazing facility you've got here. But can you just go through the basics of what it is? Because all I know is pumped storage. So you've got a lake at the top of a mountain, a lake at the bottom, and the water goes between the two.
Yeah, effectively, we're moving water backwards and forwards between those 2 lakes.
Right.
So in the morning, we'll be brimming at the top lake, at Llyn, and then during the right periods of the day, we'd allow water to flow from the top lake to the bottom lake, and generate some power when there's demand on the grid system. And then generally overnight, we'll pump that water that's now in the bottom lake back up to Llyn for repeating again the following day.
Right, because it's much bigger than I thought. I knew it was big, but is it 600 metres that it's
net height is about 550 metres.
550 metres.
Yes.
So that is colossal pressure then. And when it went at the bottom of that tube, the pressure
it's 60 bars. So that's 60 times atmospheric pressure of the top lake pushing down on us down here.
Wow. And do you know? That's good. Is that important? It's alarms going off. But do you know how, in terms of volume of water, do you have any idea of what you would?
There's 7 million cubic metres of water up at the top lake.
Right.
If we're full, just over 7 million.
7 million cubic metres. Because that was one of the statistics I learned a long time ago with a very small water mill. Was 1 cubic metre of water dropping 1 metre produces 1 kilowatt.
Right,
is that about right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So you've got 7 million
cubic metres of this water. So there's quite a lot of water up there. And obviously that will last us, if we were to generate as a full station output, around 5.5 hours worth of running.
Right.
That's how fast it's
And then it takes about 6.5 hours to pump that water back up the hill if we were empty.
And in terms of energy use, then would you presumably use?
They won't be able to hear you.
If I had to say anything, that would be a more definitely a different path to go than the windmills that pollute and things like that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love it.
All right.
Thank you for sharing that, Barry.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, a couple more things just going around the world. Marine Le Pen has rejected the new migrant pact as a suicide for Europe.
Listen, she's going to knock over that camera.
French populist national rally leader Marine Le Pen.
Earthquake. Move the dog.
Has launched a campaign. She's just itching. She's just almost done.
First of all, itching is not an action verb.
She's itching and she's scratching. My ear itches there. Okay, there you go. Has launched a campaign against the new European Migration and Asylum Pact, stating it will lead to the suicide of Europe. The new proposal by the European Commission to radically reform the bloc's asylum policies away from the previous Dublin Agreement was put forward at the end of last month, and according to Le Pen, could see as many as 60 to 70 million migrants settling in the EU in the coming years. I think I'm going to tell you why. It is an organized plan for the submersion of Europe and the nations that make it up. Le Pen went on to state that the new pact will cause the ruin of our social systems, an increase in unemployment, a housing crisis, an increase in delinquency and communication conflicts, and the advance of Islamism and terrorist risks, and the questioning of the values of our civilization. She slammed the European Union, stating that it had entrusted the keys to the Middle East gate to Turkey, which is now blackmailing us to submission. Today it is about to open the doors of the house of Europe to the third world. Let's take back the keys of Europe and France. Le Pen said she, along with other members of the Populist Identity and Democracy group in the European Parliament, would be campaigning against the new migrant pact and will launch a petition with the goal of getting around 1 million signatures. Comments come after the Visegrad group of Central European nations, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Poland, also spoke out against the new pact in September. Allocation of quota to change the name is not enough. Hungary is against it. The basic approach is still unchanged. They, the Commission, would like to manage migration and not stop the migrants. The Hungarian position is to stop the migrants. We have to stop migration, the relocation. These rules are not acceptable for us as the Czech Republic. I'm going to get to my point on why this is happening in a minute. But let me go over here to Britain will actually deploy nets to disable dinghies and send migrants back across the channel. Dave Mahoney has been appointed as clandestine channel threat commander. The channel threat commander. Channel threat commander. Dan Mahoney, you are the clandestine channel threat commander. He has set out his 4-stage plan in a bid to clamp down on illegal crossings. So, I love the Daily Mail because they have so many daggone pop-ups. How do you read an article on this site?
You're not going to be able to fit there. Oh my gosh.
We're back in where we started. Migrants entering British waters across the channel will have their dinghies disabled by nets before being sent back to France. Dan Mahoney, the new clandestine channel threat commander, has set out his 4-stage plan in a bid to clamp down on illegal crossings. The former Marine has reportedly confirmed how the UK authorities are poised to deploy a safe return tactic. It comes after it emerged that more than 7,100 migrants had reached the UK this year alone. In an interview with the Sunday Telegraph, which I would pull up, but I don't have a subscription, so we have to look at all the ads. Mr. Mahoney said that personnel would render migrant boats inoperable before using British vessels to ferry the migrants back to France. The method is similar to that used by the Royal Navy to clog boat propellers to force immediate stop. Mr. Mahoney, who Home Secretary Priti Patel appointed in August, said, "We are exploring tactics to make safe interventions in order to return migrants back to France. We definitely are very, very close to being able to operationalize a safe return tactic where we make an intervention safely on a migrant vessel." And I really feel like all this has to do with Nigel Farage's exposing it. And it took a while to figure out what they were going to do. So it took them, were they getting a plan together? Actually, it looks like they were. Right. As soon as Nigel Farage went about to expose it. So that's pretty cool. He added that this tactic was just one of many, which we may deploy over the next few months. The number of clandestine arrivals are about 300 a day. Now, Barry also sent me this. The use of the ferries, offshore ferries, is actually
going to happen. Oh, it's going. They are going to do it. I'm so excited about this. We covered this a few weeks ago.
Migrants will be held on boats off the British coast under proposals being worked on by Priti Patel's office. Migrants attempting to cross the channel in a desperate bid. I am trying to close everything, and then another one just going to pop up. What do you mean?
Close that. No, that.
Okay.
There you go.
They'll just keep popping up. They just pop up everywhere. It's called pop-up ads. Migrants moving across the channel in a desperate bid to reach Britain could be held.
Pop-up blocker's not on.
That you can't open up certain things with it on.
Oh.
Then they're like, you can't read it. Then it'd be like, you can't open up this page.
Now you're already there. I wouldn't have, like...
Okay. Migrants ended across the channel in a desperate bid to reach Britain could be held on disused ferries under proposals being worked on by the Home Office officials. The idea to use boat to house asylum seekers before they land on British shores formed part of leaked Home Office plans last week. Government sources earlier insisted that the ideas were only ever considered in brainstorming sessions. But actually, it appears that the ferries plan, which could take several months to go through, may actually be part of the government's blueprint to get the grips on migration. The source told The Sun, there is a real determination to tackle this problem, and things are now moving forward. The ferry plan is
Nigel.
on. It's happening. Officials were told to begin discussions about buying 2 unused boats to turn into processing centers and keep off the coast of Portsmouth. Some £6 million could buy the Home Office a 40-year-old ferry, which could house 1,400 asylum seekers. Approval to house migrants in ferries has not been granted. Ms. Patel branded the Britain's asylum system broken after 20 migrants were taken off a new deportation flight to Germany. The Home Secretary sent another handful of migrants back to mainland China or Europe, but was hit by a flurry of 11th hour legal challenges. Okay, so
I find this so fascinating because Lauren Southern tried to get into the UK. They knew exactly who she was and said, no, you shall not pass. You cannot come in here.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and play Nigel Farage's video on
freedom and fortune.
Fortune and freedom.
Fortune and freedom. The backstory on this is that he's starting kind of a new little show. And movement kind of thing, which is really, really exciting. So let's get to the fortune and freedom there and go here and screen share with you all there. And here we are. Without further introduction, none needed.
Hello and welcome to Fortune and Freedom with Nigel Farage. Nigel, you've taken on the political establishment and won. And you've also taken on the media establishment, and that battle is very much raging. But now, as I see it, you're going to take on a third front. You're also going the financial establishment. So tell us about Fortune and Freedom, what you've got planned.
Yeah, the idea is that Fortune and Freedom we'll talk about economic ideas, we'll talk about political movements and what's happening, and But what people don't know about me is they see me as a politician, they see me a bit as a broadcaster. What they don't know is, in 20 years working in the financial industry, working in commodities, mostly, as indeed my father and grandfather did. So we're a family that has spent a lot of time in financial markets, but in what was a very different world. And my feeling is that people who have put money aside, put it into pension pots or whatever it is, allowed the professional industry to manage it for them, have suffered charges compounded over years that don't really give them a decent chance of getting a good return, are investing in an industry that operates on groupthink, where they all do the same thing every year, so they all go up a bit or all go down a bit. And I think we've all been let down so badly that it's time to take back control of our own money, our own lives. Let's have our own financial independence, and that really is what I'm trying to do.
Why now? What motivates you to do this now? Is there any particular issue that sparked all of this?
2 reasons really. One, I'm not going to Brussels and Strasbourg every week. I'm not representing a constituency, so there's a little bit more time on my hands to do other things. That's one reason I'm doing it. And secondly, because I've been so busy myself over the last 20 years, even though I could see some of the failings of the industry, I myself have trusted the industry to do this for me. And I look at the annual statement I get. Well, there I was in the 1990s, running my own little brokerage company, conscientiously putting money aside every year. And actually, I've been let down very, very badly.
It's still on the
so there's a little bit of me that's kicking myself for being so trusting. And the third reason is, think about where we are now, and what we thought we'd be. I was going to say
it was on the outside.
Let's say the 31st.
Play another one. Where'd you get this?
The world's a different place. We've got a major American election coming up, which could well economic course for America, the world's biggest economy for the next few years. We've got a situation in Europe where Brussels is deluding itself that so everyone's in love with the euro and it's all going swimmingly. It's not. And I can see the growth of populist politics now across southern Europe in particular. We will not sit here and have this conversation in 5 or 10 years' time and the euro be in the shape that it's currently in. And again, that means there'll be huge economic shocks and some people will get very badly caught in that. And I also think what coronavirus has shown us is that rainy days happen, that the world, terrific shocks happen, and if people are not financially independent, they are in a much weaker, poorer position to weather those storms, than if they'd made plans and provisions. And there's something in me that says that a lot of young people that I speak to have not been saving at all. The culture of thrift has been destroyed by effectively zero interest rates for years, and particularly in London by house prices just being completely unaffordable for people. So, your grandmother says to you, look, if you're having a good time, put some money aside for a rainy day. And young people thought, hey, we're never going to have a rainy day. Well, now they know there can be rainy days. So I do actually think there'll be a lot more people out there right now who think, we don't want to be in this position ever again. We actually do want to build for ourselves a secure financial future. And I think, and the aim and the hope of Fortune and Freedom is that we can make people freer, but also able to make their own decisions, able to make their own mistakes, able to make their own successes, but hopefully with high-end research, with some really good thinking, they can do a damn sight better on their own than by trusting an industry which seems, frankly, to serve itself more than its customers.
I see you as being an expert in finding when there's a gap between what the establishment, whether it's political or media or financial, is promising people and what it believes is best for people, and what they actually want. So when people have been let down by the financial establishment and the returns they've got, you've spotted this gap. And if you're as successful as you were in politics with this, helping to close that gap, bringing people what they actually want from the financial advice that they're getting and the financial information they're getting, then you should outdo the city quite comfortably.
Well, let's hope so. And also, so much of the culture of savings, of ISAs, of pensions, of all of these things, so much of it's utterly dependent on the indices. It's tracker funds. That's all well and good, and you can point to long-term growth of stock markets as being a good place to invest. But hey, they have very bad periods of 5 years or more, and it does happen. So I think another object of this is to get people to think about alternative investments, to get people to think about gold, silver. And if you're going to buy it, where do you go to buy it? Where's it really secure?
Love it.
The sort of things that the financial establishment won't tell people.
No, these things are almost like secrets. And the other thing I think, and I know this is true, is people get financial advice or they're sent a letter and they read it, and it's so legalistic. It's so tied up with terms to meet compliance requirements or whatever it may be. But the truth of it is, very few people understand the stuff that's been sent to them, and so hopefully what we're trying to do here is cut through the jargon, put things in good, simple English. And at the end of the day, it's not my job to tell people what they should and shouldn't do, but it is, I hope, through Fortune and Freedom, to give them the opportunity to think about different things and to understand what they might be getting into.
So that's fantastic.
I love it so much.
Fantastic. I feel, though, like we are on an episode of the Saturday Night Live. You see, because during that wonderful, serious
you came back
proposal
for the important part
of Nigel Farage. Oh, just make sure there's nothing else in here. It feels like there's another thing in here.
Do you need to look at it?
There was a yellow jacket crawling around on my head for however long until Michelle gave me my hat back.
But what happened was it was right here on the back of the hat, okay? And I went outside and I went flick like that, like I flicked it, and then I looked at the hat on the outside, made sure it wasn't there. I didn't look to see if it had jumped to the inside.
The hat with the yellow jacket inside of it.
But maybe it was a second yellow jacket.
We are trying to be serious here, and this is not a magic show. There's no popping out of this hat.
Okay,
I feel
now,
like I shouldn't even be wearing it now anymore. Like, what
on
is this
a
first?
serious note, I want to
I will
say
be
something
joining this email.
Really important to you
Nigel
guys.
here.
Okay. I know a lot of you have said, I would love to give to resistance chicks. What can I do? You know, yada, yada, yada. What I want you to do, if you have money to give, don't give it. Buy silver. Just buy some silver, right? If you have any savings whatsoever, and you have it in cash money. Let's say you're fortunate enough to have 10 grand sitting aside. Okay, that's actually a pretty big deal nowadays. It used to not be a big deal. Most people had like $10,000 sitting in their savings. Most middle class people.
Yeah.
Okay, like Nigel said, people don't know how to save anymore. If you've got, say, $10,000 just sitting there, pray about it. Take as much as you feel comfortable with and buy precious metals. And here is why. Because if you hang on to that, tomorrow it is worth less and less and less and less. Now, that would be just standard precaution, okay? We know inflation, you lose it if you stick your money in a mattress. So that's why people try to invest. The problem with investing is what we are on the precipice of, what we are on the cusp of. They want to do the great economic world society reset type deal because they know that they have been holding up this house of cards for far too long. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but within, I would say, a minimum or maximum, I should say, of 10 years, we are going to go into economic collapse. We are going to spring into hyperinflation, where a loaf of bread that is $3 or $4 now, where Lynette Zhang does the bread thing, she shows you how many loaves of bread you could have bought, you know, I don't know, 20 years ago for $10. And she breaks it down to like, now you can't, she actually has to open up the bread.
Right.
For $1, you know what I mean? You know, so anyway, could cost $25. That's not outside of the realm of possibilities. So if you have your $10,000, okay, it's what Lynette calls it is wealth preservation. So rather than thinking in the terms of, I want to invest because I want to make money off of my money, why don't we think in the terms of, I just want my money to retain its value for the duration,
right.
Okay? Gold is undervalued. Lynette says it should be $11,000. We know silver is supposed to be roughly 10 or 15 to 1 of that. Right now it's at like $25. So do the math on that, okay?
Yeah.
It is, as of right now, it would be an investment. Once it equals out and gold reaches that $10,000 or $11,000 and silver is the 1/10 of that, you know, kind of 1/15 of that following suit, then it's just about preserving your wealth.
Right.
But right now, if you have cash money, and they have now, all economies, all Western countries have flooded with all this stuff that they're giving away because of coronavirus. At least in the United States here, we're talking trillions of dollars poured into the economy that they pulled out of a hat.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to preserve what you have for what's coming down the line, you need to be buying precious metals.
Right. I want to take just a quick 5 minutes because this is the UK Euro news, and I just want to hit these topics just real quick, and then I want to go to my main one. We're talking about Davos here. Okay, so UK National Health Service defends giving sex change drugs to 10-year-olds. The NHS in England has defended giving hormone blockers to a child aged just 10 years old, as an IT worker sues the Public Health Service's gender identity clinic for rushing young people into sex changes. For me, wrong path, negative. Don't like
it. It's a child abuse.
Right, exactly. I'm hitting these topics. No, it's fine. No, you can talk about it. It's awful. It's child abuse. In France, a Muslim woman in the French city of Reims has ransacked the liquor area of the supermarket for the second time in under a month, causing major property damage.
What did she do? Just go to the
shelves?
And
attack, took place on September 16th at a Spar supermarket in the Croix Rouge area of the city around 6 p.m. and saw the woman smash bottles of liquor before she was eventually arrested. On Thursday, the woman returned to the same supermarket and again began smashing hundreds of liquor bottles and allegedly explaining to witnesses that her religion, Islam, forbids alcohol. So there you have that.
Oh my gosh.
The Finnish police have busted a huge sex trafficking ring led by migrants.
Wow.
Police in Finland have busted a sex trafficking ring led by migrants that operated in at least 12 major cities and trafficked women from Romania, forcing them to work as prostitutes. Investigators arrested 5 men and 1 woman in Finland this week in connection to the sex trafficking network, and another man has been held in custody in Romania. These are not the migrants that you might normally associate, but this is the Eastern European sex trafficking rings. Huge, by the way. Hunter Biden knows a little about those. Several €100,000 have been seized as part of the operation, and police are investigating possible money laundering operations as well. According to a report from the Finnish broadcaster Yle, the network operated in Helsinki, Turku, Espoo, Tampere, and Oulu. Pretty close. At many other major cities across the country, the victims are said to be Romanian citizens lured to Finland by fake job offers. So I'm glad that that's shut down. Australian state premier to quarantine people who won't test for 21 days.
You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. The premier of Australia's Victoria State stepping up his fight against members of the public who don't comply with pandemic regulations, saying close contact of those infected who refuse a test will have to spend 21 days in quarantine. I find this to be fascist and totally unacceptable. All right, but we have some good news. Center-right dominates the Czech Senate elections. Social Democrats are wiped out. So opposition parties in the Czech Republic have cemented their dominant position in Parliament's upper house after winning big in an election for a third of the seats in the Senate.
Wow.
As the ruling center-left coalition government has suffered a setback.
Nice.
So that's good for the Czech Republic. With nearly all of the votes counted Saturday by the Statistics Office, the mostly center-right opposition parties won 26 of 27 seats, up for grabs in the 81 seat Senate. So it's kind of like we really don't want you anymore, right?
If they won all of the seats that were possible to gain a minus
26
one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The senior governing party, the centrist ANO Yes Party, led by Prime Minister Andrej Babis, won only 1 seat. Its coalition partner, the left-wing Social Democrats, won no seats, and of the 10 seats they were defending. Their minority government is supported in Parliament's lower house by far-left communists, who have no seat in the Senate. The lower house dominates the legislative processes, but the Senate plays an important role in passing constitutional amendments and approving constitutional court judges. A grouping of mayors and independent candidates won 11 seats, followed by the Conservative Civic Democrat Party, and 5 with the Christian Democrats to 3. And so I just wanted to point that out so you know what's going on around the world.
As more seats open up, they'll just keep taking them.
Yeah, it could be a boon for some reform there. Muslim imam arrested in huge child pornography bust here in France. A 50-year-old imam is one of 65 men who have been placed into custody after French police conducted a large-scale operation in multiple cities aimed at tackling child pornography. But they were able to film Netflix cuties over there with no problem. So if they're saying it's child porn, it's really child porn because they put forth a child pornography movie.
Exactly.
The imam is said to preach at a mosque in the departure of the Eure in north of France and was found in possession of more than 400 indecent images of children. In total, the operation saw 65 arrests carried out by the French Judicial Police Central Office for the suppression of violence against persons. Investigators say that 4 of the suspects who were monitored for an extended period of time online have admitted to raping 2 girls aged 7 and 14 following their arrest.
I don't think that they should be imprisoned. I think they should be killed.
Yeah. 2 others are said to have worked in careers that brought them in constant contact with children, including a teacher. French investigators were aided by the U.S. FBI. Nice. And the agency's computer software was used to help identify the men and their connection to the child abuse websites. Around 50 mobile phones and 100 computers were seized in the raids.
Huzzah.
Huzzah, exactly. The Danish PM to crack down on non-Western young men harassing native Danes. So the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, announced this week that her government would crack down on crimes committed by young non-Western migrant men. Prime Minister Frederiksen spoke during the opening of the Danish parliamentary year on Tuesday, saying, 1 in 5 young men from non-Western backgrounds who were born in 1997 had breached the penal code before the age of 21. 1 in 5. It's nothing new, but that's the problem. It's been going on for many years. Girls are called derogatory things because they are Danish. Or girls are subjected to social control because they have become too Danish. A sausage cart in Brostø is attacked with firecrackers because it sells pork. The Danish leader went on to state that police need to crack down on crime in vulnerable no-go areas where she claimed 1% of the population commits around half of the crime.
Wow.
Fredriksson proposed banning criminals from living in certain areas for a limited time. Those who violate the bans would be fined up to 10,000 Danish kroner, about $1,500 for the first offense, and that police could start confiscating luxury goods such as mobile phones and watches, while a second offense would see a 30-day prison sentence. Today, status symbols are used to recruit young brothers. The pattern must be broken. We'd rather give the little brother a part-time job than a criminal big brother to look up to. Gang members and young criminals could also be banned from nightclubs and bars for up to 2 years, because in Denmark you need to be safe everywhere, whether it's a disco, a residential area, or train station. Migrant crime remains a major problem in Denmark, with a report released earlier this year claiming that half of the young men from Somalia, Lebanon, and Morocco had been convicted of a crime before the age of 30.
Wow.
With the rate increasing to 62% for Somalians in particular. Somalian, 100% Muslim country, female and male genital mutilation.
Oh, so bad.
It's not a good place. Totally full of corruption. England rugby fans are now allowed to sing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot after re-education lessons.
After re-education
Yes.
lessons?
England rugby fans were granted permission Friday to continue singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot by the sport's governing body, but only on the express condition that they agree to being proactively re-educated on the song's history and province. Yes, exactly. It's been announced the RFU will use social media to educate supporters and help them correct their thinking, in addition to providing platforms for diverse voices across the game. The song was written by Wallace Willis, a freed Oklahomian slave, after 1865, and has been long associated with black spiritual gospel music. It was adopted by rugby fans in England in 1988 when England beat Ireland at Twickenham following an impressive come-from-behind win. It has been sung at matches involving the national team ever since, while artists including a lot of people sang it. According to Friday's announcement, the RFU has assumed the role of social re-educator, saying it is committed to improving diversity and inclusion at a time when the intersection between politics and sport has become a global issue. The RFU needs to step up its efforts to improve diversity. You're singing a song written by a freed black man. Ain't that diverse? Is that not diverse? You're singing it because you want to invoke the power of Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. You want to... It's absolutely insane. We are living through testing times. But he said he was determined rugby would grasp the opportunity. We have worked hard to understand our starting point and are now underway with a plan that we are confident will produce big improvements in our diversity and inclusion over the next few years. Word salad. This is cultural appropriation, by the way, to be singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Music history professor Arthur Jones was also upset that English rugby fans for singing the iconic song. I feel kind of sad. I feel like the story of America, chattel slavery, and this incredible cultural tradition built up within a community of people who were victims and often seen as incapable of standing up for themselves. It's such a powerful story that I want the whole world to know about it, but apparently not everyone does.
Here's the thing. You need to understand and see right through this agenda. Every person touting these kind of woke things where they want to get rid of.
They actually want to get rid of the song.
They are the racists.
Because it's Christian.
It's powerful. It is godly. It speaks a message. It evokes an emotional response that actually does make you think of where it came from. There's a reason why we love the spirituals that came out of it, because they were so full of the power of God.
It's Christian.
So they want to get rid of it because they are the ones that are racist.
Because it's filled with the power of God.
And they are racist.
Because Elijah was taken up in chariots of fire.
Yes.
So when you're singing it, it's an anointing thing. It's an anointed thing. It's talking about being taken up in chariots of fire. It's a powerful Christian thing. And they're not trying... What they want to do is remove its power and make it all about slavery instead of about being free.
Yeah. So racist.
So racist. COVID cops and lockdown enforcement get £60 million in taxpayer cash. I'm not even going to go into that. But money wasted. Nearly half of young people in North Africa and the Middle East actually want to migrate. Why do you think? People are putting out the blowhorn for this, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. I know I've been stringing you along. The Spanish Canary Islands see unsustainable 700% increase in migrants. What is happening? I'm going to tell you in a minute. Pope Francis slams the idolatry of money. Remember, he has his own city. the Vatican sits on billions of dollars and is telling you that you are hoarding.
Right.
Okay, after years of Vatican financial scandals, okay, Pope Francis attacked the worship of the ancient golden calf and the idolatry of money Thursday. They weren't actually worshiping gold. It was the golden calf, but they were worshiping an image of a calf. But anyways, they weren't actually worshiping money, by the way. Thursday, just 2 weeks after sacking a prominent Vatican cardinal for financial impropriety. It seems that in many places, the supremacy of money over human beings is taken for granted, he said. Sometimes, in the effort to amass wealth, there is little concern for where it comes from and more or less legitimate activities that may have produced it and the mechanisms of exploitation that may be behind it. You have allowed China to pick your cardinals and archbishops. You have partnered with Communist China. Absolutely insane. Thus, situations can occur where, in touching money, we get blood on our hands, the blood of our brothers and sisters. Has he talked about the Uyghurs at all? Last December, the Vatican came under fire for having invested upwards of $1 million to finance the Rocket Man film with Elton John, who was had a really graphic gay scene in that. The Italian
and then they just touted it as it was just an investment.
Yeah, the Italian daily Della Sera revealed that the Vatican's Secretariat of State had invested in Lapo Elkins eyewear and lifestyle products company. It sounds kind of like a capitalist, investment here, as well as the Elton John film, using money donated by Catholic faithful through Worldwide's Peter Pence collections.
Could you imagine? I feel like this investing, though, is like akin to gambling.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So you are taking money from parishioners, and then turning it around and investing it in something to make even more money. It just feels so wrong and so dirty. I can't believe that they do that.
He says financial speculation fundamentally aimed at quick profit continues to wreak havoc. Jesus drove merchants from the temple precincts and stated, "You cannot serve God and money." And September 24th, Pope Francis removed Cardinal Angelo Beccaciu for his role as head of the Congregation for the Causes of the Saints and stripped him of the rights of being a cardinal, including participation in the conclave that elects popes. Francis had promoted him to the rank of cardinal 2 years ago. The cardinal was accused of obstructing investigations initiated by Cardinal George Pell into financial improprieties by Vatican officials. The Financial Times revealed that massive Vatican investments in London properties made in 2014 and 2018 had been authorized by this guy. So the Vatican's all about it. So listen, whatever. Woke Olympics. Tokyo organizers backflip on athletes' demand for on-field protests. We will have woke Olympics. World Athletics President Sebastian Coe said Thursday competitors should be able to take a knee in protest at the Tokyo Olympics next year. Coe's assurance means an end to the politically neutral and the neutrality the modern Olympic movement has embraced since it was founded in 1896. Coe, who was in the Japanese capital inspecting the venue where Olympic track and field will be contested, gave his approval with the caveat protests are carried out with respect. So we'll see how that ends up. We have some good news. The Swedish populists see largest rise in support in Stockholm. So up and away, there we go. The populist Swedish Democrats have seen a surge into support in Stockholm, as another poll shows a rapid decline in national support for the current Social Democrat, the Prime Minister. The poll showed the SD and the center-right moderates had gained ground in the Swedish capital, while the Christian Democrats, Feminist Initiative, and the Greens, I love the Feminist Initiative, not the kind that we would appreciate, have seen a decline in support. Since the 2018 municipal elections, the populists have gained 2.1% points, the largest of any party in the city, while the Greens and the Feminist Initiatives have dropped 1.6%. So I'm excited about that.
This just goes to show you that regardless of all of this re-education that they're trying to do in the schools in Sweden, when you take it too far, the people will rise. They will not put up with it any longer.
Yeah, so Hungary vows to protect the nation's interest as the EU court actually strikes down the Soros crackdown. Does that make sense to you? Higher education reform passed in 2017 requires foreign registered universities to provide courses in their home countries as well as in Hungary or else face penalties. Brussels highest court, the European Court of Justice, ruled against the National Conservative Government of Hungary on Tuesday, stating that its ruling that the conditions introduced by Hungary to enable foreign higher education institutions to carry out their activities in its territory are incompatible with EU law. In imposing the new restriction, Hungary has failed to comply with the commitments under the framework of the WTO, as well as acting in contravention of the provisions of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. The Central European University, an institution founded and backed by globalist billionaire Davos, was forced to relocate from Budapest to Vienna last year as a result of the legislation, which sparked outrage from the international media. We want to be able to educate our globalist ideals. Voice of America, a liberal U.S. state-run media outlet funded by American taxpayers, lamented at the time that Hungary's law would hurt academic freedom. Yep, it was.
Way to go, Hungary.
Way to go, Hungary. All right, so we do know the WHO has reversed its positions on lockdowns. You never know where they're going to go. I want to, maybe Michelle, if you want to up the videos, bring up the God of Wokeness here. I love this from the Australian Sky News. If you guys
like
need
my new
worldwide
favorite
news,
channel. Yeah,
go
so
to that are incredible. And so while she bringing that up, the
you
God
just played it
of
this one
Wokeness. Nope. The that's the Ice Age one. I didn't.
It's a curious faith that manages to integrate new beliefs quickly, such as the idea that soul-crushing lockdowns, a sort of man-made hell on earth, are the only way to coronavirus salvation, despite the increasing evidence to the contrary. It's also a religion that has its own priestly class, known as the scientists, who have worked out that they're never enough to know if its hosts have gathered together for a Black Lives Matter out of wokeness, which built the very civilization that this woke religion seeks to destroy. Which brings us, as so often happens when we discuss the follies of the left, to the Jews. Now, I want to take you back to my old hometown of New York City, which is experiencing a minor second wave, but nowhere near as bad as their first wave, mostly because the feckless state governor Andrew Cuomo finally stopped sending positive COVID patients to nursing homes there to infect entire residences.
I'm going to have you play it because it's getting sketchy. I know, I'm sorry.
What paint was it?
121.
Okay, 121. Oh, we're not on.
Now, to try to tamp down the latest spend numbers, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio...
You're going to have to wait because they're not going to be able to hear it.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
This is plugged in. But it might... Will you plug it in?
Clearing certain neighborhoods of the city red zones. These red zones coincidentally overlap with a lot of the city's Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods. De Blasio has also explicitly threatened to shut down synagogues, and since the start of the pandemic has singled out the Jewish community for his ire. Local rabbis and community leaders say it's unfair and part of a program of discrimination aimed at the city's religious believers, Orthodox Jews in particular. Some got so angry this week that they took to the streets and burned masks in a bonfire in protest. Of course, this is pretty tame stuff considering everything else we've seen over the past few months, but the Jewish community in New York has a point. After all, in June, at the height of the pandemic, the New York City government facilitated a very non-socially distanced rally in support of Black Trans Lives Matter. You heard me right. The New York Times was gushing about it, calling it, quote, one of the most striking demonstrations that New York has seen since the killing of George Floyd, a gathering of thousands of people in a sea of white. Its size and intensity stunned bystanders, participants, and the organizers themselves. Bless. Fast forward to this week when the New York Times tut-tutted about how affected Orthodox communities rarely wear masks. Oddly, there was none of such concern at the Black Trans Lives Matter rally, of course, and other newspapers have reflected this narrative of the new religion of woke. Here's the Washington Post talking about how New York Jews, quote, violent protests. They didn't even earn the infamous mostly peaceful moniker. And here's the Washington Post on George Floyd protests, calling them huge peaceful protests that mark anti-racism demonstrations across the globe. Yeah, they're about as peaceful as getting hit in the head with a brick. Now, all this is important for a number of reasons. One, it shows that once again, Jewish populations are copying the blame from the left and are again being scapegoated, this time in New York, this time for the coronavirus. It's dangerous behavior on the part of New York's leaders and something which they should be condemned by thoughtful people of any faith or no faith around the globe. But it also shows the clown world we are in now with the coronavirus, and how once the activists left, corporate media, HR departments, and even scientists came to the conclusion that the BLM protests were worthy and virtuous and woke, the rules that they would force on the rest of us suddenly didn't apply.
Suddenly didn't apply. And so what we're talking about and what we're seeing here is a religion of the woke. And this goes along perfectly with, I have to tell you, what's this guy's name? What is this guy's name? Rowan Dean. Rowan Dean is probably one of the most important voices in the world today. I don't know if he's writing his own stuff, but what he put together here in under 15 minutes should be an episode all by itself, and it is the title of our show. And it goes perfectly along with why I believe that I have found the reason for the migration push.
Great.
What you're seeing is the global elite have been using these lockdowns and the COVID track and trace and the surveillance, and especially harsh in Australia, to roll out measures that they will use to combat climate change. Okay? Climate change is a Trojan horse for just global control and the New World Order.
Right.
There is, before I play that, I want to play this, and I think it's I'm
waiting to see how you're going to link that to the migrants.
Yes. So I tweeted this out, but so did, I'm going to find the closest person that I remember tweeting this out. You have I believe it's an Australian mayor, leader, governor, what have you. Who is he? Who says literally, we're bringing about a new world order. And
well, Prince Charles said the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Where he's been tweeting out a lot. Here we go. Okay, so this is who is it? I think it's on Daniel Andrews, COVID-19. So this is definitely Sky News Sydney. So listen to this.
Life can go on as it is. But at the moment, what I'm seeing as Health Minister is a level of apathy, a level of complacency. I understand that, but I'm not happy about it. I'd also say this, the other area of danger is the place that we would normally consider to be the safest place on earth, our homes. You already heard today that one of, or a number of the people who've actually now got the virus, got it in a home situation. And we'll hear more detail about that in due course. But it is both a safe place and a dangerous place. We must treat this new world order, this new world of COVID, we must treat this new world of COVID home situation.
Oops.
And we'll hear more detail about that in due course. But it is both a safe place and a dangerous place. We must treat this new world order, this new world of COVID. We must treat this new world of COVID, even in our own homes, with a high level dangerous place. We must treat this new world order, this new world of COVID. We must treat this new world of COVID.
Freudian slip there.
Your home is a dangerous place in the New World Order.
Wow.
Okay, here we go. All right, guys.
Davos and the World Economic Forum. That's that gabfest that takes place every January in the beautiful Swiss town of Davos. And apart from all the lovey pop stars and movie stars who jet in on their private Lear jets, all sorts of major corporations and governments, including ours, send delegates to this flash red carpet economic event every year. Indeed, since the very first outs, we here on this show have highlighted the absurdity, hypocrisy, and sheer repugnance of billionaires like Bono prattling on about the evils of capitalism. And of course, last year we had the silliness of Greta Thunberg lecturing world leaders about climate change. What a joke. Well, this week we had some good news. Maybe because they're panicking that not enough squillionaires will feel like heading out to the freezing Swiss Alps in the middle of the coronavirus, the World Economic Forum announced a couple of days ago that Davos in January has been postponed. Let's face it, it's never a good look when you're banging on about global warming and it's snowing outside. And the World Economic Forum will now take place in late spring, much warmer, in the luxury Bergenstock resort overlooking Lake Lucerne, where the event will be hosted on both sides of the beautiful lake and glitzy delegates can be ferried across the glittering waters. How nice for them. But I wonder if there isn't more to the postponement of Davos than the weather and the virus. I wonder if perhaps certain governments and corporations are beginning to get, well, cold feet, as it were, about the next World Economic Forum, because they certainly should be. You see, the next World Economic Forum isn't just some lovey jet-setters climate gabfest. It's an anti-democratic enterprise designed to destroy your job, steal your prosperity, and rob your kids of a future. It's a hardcore, leftist, eco-horror show replete with quasi-fascism. I spoke a couple of weeks ago here about the disturbing trend among many of the world's left-wing elites to increasingly conflate COVID-19 with climate change, with many going so far as to suggest that all the measures applied to the coronavirus, the lockdowns, the destruction of businesses, the suppression of dissent, curfews, strong-arm police tactics, should become the new normal for dealing with climate change.
This is the new normal.
And indeed, that is precisely what the next World Economic Forum is planning to do, to convince governments, with the help of big business and big tech, to bring about something deeply, deeply sinister called the Great Reset. The what? Precisely, it sounds kind of crazy enough, but it is a program designed to strip us of all our fundamental democratic rights in favor of a new form of society as dictated by the elites. First of all, here's a bit of the official promo ad for the Great Reset.
Our systems need a reset. Reset of capitalism. What I love about this imagery here, if you're just listening to the podcast, is we've got all this, pause him real quick, we've got all this technology, all this oil, all this waste, and then they take us back to a natural landscape, right? Which is something that we here at Resistance Chicks, Isaiah 58 Ministries, God's Little Acre, are proponents of, right? Getting back to the land, farming, more a natural lifestyle, getting rid of the pumping of the oil and all of that. But their plan doesn't actually call for getting rid of any of that.
No, they want you
they
to
want
be
more
technology,
technology,
in the cities,
more control,
more high-rise buildings.
Exactly. That's what they want.
Robots,
They're
everything.
liars.
Yeah.
It ads for many years for a living. Let me tell you that that is just about as cliched and vomit-inducing as the most inane corporate ad can possibly be. But let me deconstruct it for you. In a nutshell, this promo is saying that all the very worst things in the world, from the coronavirus to bushfires, to riots, to pollution, to poverty, are somehow linked. Then it is claiming that they can magically disappear, literally at the push of a button. And just like that, everything in the world is made right and pure again. The Great Reset. What could be simpler?
World Economic Forum in January 21, which will serve as a global summit devoted to the Great Reset.
Great Reset.
This summit will bring the decision makers physically to Davos, but it will be interconnected with a virtual twin summit driven by the young generation, our global shapers. They will integrate over 400 hubs into the dialogue of Davos and ensure that the Global Reset Initiative is really forward-looking and takes into account the voices of all who are left behind.
Now, put aside for the moment that bloke looks like he's auditioning for the head of Smersh in the next James Bond movie. He is, in fact, Klaus Schwab, the founder and head of the World Economic Forum. He is a total whack job, in my opinion, and I'll get into that in a second. He's a big fan of drones, algorithms, and the Chinese Communist Party. And he believes there's a fourth industrial revolution underway that is changing what it means to be human. And he peddles this sicko fantasy that humans and machines will somehow merge in his green utopia. Bonkers, like I said. But this lunatic has some very, very powerful friends determined to push the Great Reset button along with him.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight the real virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable
Prince Charles,
path.
sorry, the lighting's bad.
It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again.
Wow.
So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis. What is it that would make it so that history would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset?
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need.
Off the land?
Ah, yes, net zero emissions, the great climate cult mantra. The Prince of Wales, the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, all determined to redesign and reimagine the entire world. What it means to be human, how money works, how political will can be enforced. And here are just a few other tasty tidbits scheduled for the Great Reset.
We had already income inequality that was fueling income, race, gender inequality. We have a climate emergency, which we can't walk away from. There's no doubt that the very survival of the human race requires us to act.
Any recovery stimulus should have green conditions attached to it. Energy prices should reflect real costs.
You need private sector capital, private sector ingenuity, private sector technology, and private sector capabilities to come to the party. You need enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work.
We have to change our economy dramatically in the next 20 or 30 years and the next 10 years. Is absolutely decisive.
The recovery has to be greener than any of the previous recoveries. And in order to do that, we need to ensure that the stimulus package, including fiscal and monetary, are much greener than they were before.
Prince Charles insists all the levers at our disposal must be used to enforce the Great Reset. How on earth that one sentence alone does not disqualify Charles from ever succeeding to the throne is beyond me. He is now not only fully immersed in hardcore left-wing eco-politics, he is advocating some bizarre form of eco-fascism. The Queen must step in and insist he have nothing further to do with this freak show. After all, we are currently seeing in Victoria just what it looks like when all the levers at our disposal are being used to enforce the COVID-19 restrictions, which include curfews, lockdowns, enforced mask wearing, shutting down of businesses, making you stay within 5 kilometres of your own home, not visiting the dying rellos, and on and on. Remember, it's not me linking COVID to climate change. It is these lunatics, including Charles and the United Nations and the IMF, who want to replicate the global response to COVID and repurpose it for climate change to enforce zero net emissions. Just to remind you, this bloke Schwab is the kingpin of the World Economic Forum, the chief body that wants a globalized world with a partnership between government and big business, globalization that basically runs the show. In this week's Spectator magazine, Morris Newman writes, already Professor Schwab and his colleagues have started mobilizing vast networks of left-wing activists. Those who scoffed at claims that climate change was a stalking horse for a new world order should think again. That reality is now in full view.
We've been saying
Intense pressure will be applied to parliaments everywhere to pass enabling laws and to abdicate more responsibilities to unelected bureaucrats in global institutions. Crony capitalism is anathema to genuine market economies, and giving more leverage to those who encourage it is fascistic, says Morris Newman. Schwab has written extensively about humanity being altered by machines, nanotechnology. He's a big fan of drones, artificial intelligence. Weirdly enough, Daniel Andrews recently ditched attempts to detain people on the suspicion that they might be about to disobey COVID regulations, as eerie echoes in Schwab's boasting how technologies can intrude into the hitherto private space of our minds, reading our thoughts and influencing our behavior. And Schwab predicts, as capabilities in this area improve, the temptation for law enforcement agencies and courts to use techniques to determine the likelihood of criminal activity, assess guilt, or even possibly retrieve memories directly from people's brains will increase. All of this, Schwab says, is redefining what it means to be human. Sounding like a demented character in a Batman comic, Schwab also writes gleefully that sensors, memory switches, and circuits can be encoded in human gut bacteria, and that smart dust, arrays of full computers with antennas, can now organize themselves inside the body. Yep, this Marvel Comics whack job runs the world's most prestigious economic forum, and every year our corporate CEOs and business leaders go groveling to him at Davos, and worse, our government wastes your money sending senior politicians and highly paid public servants to dance to this madman's tune. It's a disgrace.
He's crazy.
Oh, and did I mention
he's
a huge fan of China as the leader of his brave new world?
It was very appropriate to invite the president to join us, and he, as the leader of the country, to talk to us about the future's engagement of China in global affairs and the leadership role China will assume in determining and constructing our global future.
And why China? Well, apart from the drones and the surveillance, chat to the Uyghurs about that, they also pretend to care about climate change.
And China has already taken the lead. Just look in the negotiations in Paris on the environment.
COVID, China, climate change. The Great Reset is a toxic, poisonous, ugly offspring of fascism dressed up in the frilly frocks of environmentalism. It's a horror show. So what to do? Our Governor-General must insist to the Queen that Charles ceases all involvement with this travesty. The Morrison government must refuse to send any delegates to Lucerne in May, and any Australian businesses that participate in this grotesquerie deserve the full wrath of Australian consumers and shareholders.
So the next time someone tells us that tackling climate change is either too costly or too difficult, I think we need to remind them and remind ourselves of what just is happening right now.
We not only have to demand change, but also create change.
We have to live up to the expectations which we have created, and we will do so.
I find a lot of that actually so encouraging. One of the things that Charles had said was, we only get one shot at this.
That's true.
And they do only get one shot at this. They've been planning it for over 100 years.
And that's why they have to put Joe Biden over
and they've put, exactly, they have to have Joe Biden. They had to have Hillary. Joe Biden is their, like, scrounge it up, backup plan. They keep failing at every turn. They think in their, narcissism that their plan is too big to fail.
They also think that human beings are easily controllable and manipulated.
Right.
And while, Michelle, you had said the control of the media is pretty much the number one thing, there is always the Minority Report. Okay?
Right.
That was the movie you're talking about where two people would say you were going to commit a crime, or they would have these visionaries that say you were going to commit a crime, but then there was always the third one that said you didn't commit the crime.
Right.
And the fact that the head of the World Economic Forum believes in like human robotics, in melding humans and robots. What you're seeing is a cognitive dissonance in the people promoting climate change, because the visions that they show you of peopleless lands with green grass and flowing water and
they don't show
mountains.
Like a family fishing at a lake. No, there's no people in it.
But there's also no robots there.
Right.
There's no machines there.
Right.
We are looking at a level of the Matrix. You guys should see the Matrix, where people are hooked up to feed the machines. Okay? They in their Great Reset, I don't know what they're going to do with the population. I do know that they want the population to be diminished. Okay? And so I promised at the very end, what I see happening is I actually kind of see, I believe, a shift. If they want millions of Africans into Europe, they want to go to Africa. Africa is a large, vast, untouched, pristine continent, not really filled with the pollution that you see in Malaysia.
So these
or
are
Thailand,
specifically
or
though
China.
That specifically answers the African migrant question.
So exactly with the African
not
migrant,
the Middle East one.
The African migrant
oil
tilting the well, Northern Africa, you've got Libya, you've got Egypt, you've got Somalia. So that's that's the push.
What you're trying to say, and I'm going to sum it up, not sum up what you're saying, but just so that you understand what you're saying as you continue to talk.
I think their Great Reset is a great switch.
They want to get people out of the richest resource continent.
So in our interview,
so that they can strip it.
Ms. Makaza, Zimbabwe has gold.
Yes.
Copper.
Yes.
Diamonds.
Yes.
They need things.
And the Middle East has the oil.
And the Middle East has the oil. In the 1600s, a few European settlers came down to Zimbabwe and to South Africa, and they created a utopia almost. Okay, and breadbasket, great wealth produced there. They had wonderful lives, and I think, and this is my theory, and you can
just
call
came
me
up
out
with this yourself
today. Yeah,
so
my
good.
theory
Yeah.
is that they like the idea of the vast, pristine wilderness, and so they don't want the Africans there
because they're racist.
Right, and they want it for themselves. I think that, and here's very interesting. I'm like, do you expect this to happen in your lifetime? I think that's why Merkel opened the floodgates. They're trying. I don't know who came up with this, but
and this would also go hand in hand with Bill Gates's agenda to use vaccines as a form of population control in Africa.
And then you also see, I'm seeing a lot of people like Emmanuel Macron saying that the women are having too many children in Africa, and they have a French colony in Africa, and he wants to go, and they want the birth control because they have to have some Africans there for slaves. The slavery mentality hasn't gone anywhere. I don't think this is going to happen.
And I think that's why they use their sleight of hand of you're all racist. Meanwhile, they are literally
when they see France going to pot, when they see the Scandinavian countries having issues, Hungary is a very vast land, not very populated. They think it's a great country to push in all the migrants. I am 90% convinced that this is their immense goal. That when big names like Bono and Angelina Jolie and Leonardo DiCaprio, the elites believe that the world belongs to them, and the world's resources belong to them, And that's why you see a lot of celebrities going to Africa and things like that.
Leonardo
it's
DiCaprio
untouched.
literally filmed Blood Diamond. He knows about this more than anybody.
Yeah, and so I think that
in Hollywood, I should say.
I don't know why they would think it's going to happen in their lifetime. If they feel like it's some sort of cult or religion, because it's very much, it has a religious flair to it, because these people are getting older. And I also think that that's why they're the push for the robotics, the push to put their minds, you know, and it's a Hitler-esque mindset. You know, Hitler was looking for the fountain of youth.
And they show us all of this in the films, like Minority Report. We saw it in the Avengers series about the retaining in the mind, like retaining the mind in like a, you know, kind of like a monster type being.
Yeah, exactly.
We see all of this stuff because they can't help but put their plot into story form, because they think it's almost like, have you seen somebody when they're going to build a building, it's not enough to have the blueprints, they want to see the 3D model? And I think that's what these movies are.
And the takeaway, or their tell is that all the talk about climate change is about technology, but the visions that they put forth are landscapes devoid of technology. They don't show you the wind farms. They don't show you the vast solar arrays that it would take miles and miles and miles and miles to fund. They don't say anything. Have you heard anything about reducing the plastics, or reducing, except for banning plastic straws, which is incredibly interesting to me, because it's the one thing that's not big. Right. You know what I mean? Plastic straws. They're not talking about plastics, or they're happy to go get their yogurt cups. Do you know how much yogurt cups are put into the trash? Like, seriously, yogurt cups, gallons of milk, gallons of orange juice. Right. We should be, guys, if they were legitimately concerned with here's the thing about climate change. They have lost the narrative on the environment. Okay? Because it is not environmentally sound or friendly to create windmills. To actually create and produce them.
The wind turbines.
The wind turbines. It's not environment. They have said it takes more gasoline, more energy, more natural resources than you could ever recoup from these giant monstrosities.
So I want to hit on a couple things.
More pollution.
Before we get to what I think is rounding off the good news of all of that. And so as I was watching the film, one image struck me. And if you have had to go anywhere in a doctor's office or a school building or something like that post-COVID, you have had them put that temperature gauge to your forehead. Okay? What that, to me, all of these measures, and I've said this since day one.
Putting a gun to your head.
No. Well, yeah, but I think that's not it. They don't care about putting a gun to your head. They're going to kill you. They'll use other easier
look at the comments.
means.
Comments?
Here. But what we've seen with all of the social distancing and all of that, that's just on Facebook. You're not going to get any comments there. Okay. Let me finish my thought, and then we'll go to comments. Is that they want to be able to do retinal scans. They want you to they want you to be spaced in the grocery store so that they can monitor you in the store. They want, it's all about surveillance. It's the surveillance state. And I feel like COVID is the perfect desensitization vehicle for that.
Yeah, Harold Chapman says, and actually I really want to get to your comments after this because I wanted to hear what you guys had to say. Harold Chapman says they have to show us what they are going to do. That is one thing my mom always points out, because wicked people can't hide things. God's reset works in the opposite direction from the WEF. Yep, Wakanda. They have let's see. They'll get their robots, but they'll end up begging for death. Feels like that's written somewhere. There you go. I was going to say putting a gun to your head, but Leah beat me to it. They also kill livestock. Very interesting that they want to stop red meat. They want to stop individuals farming. There's nothing there about individuals sustainably farming. Prince Charles, I thought, was going somewhere when he had Joel Salatin over there to help him figure out what's going on, help him with his farms. But Michelle in the UK, any retail business over 250 employees has to charge 10p for a plastic bag to carry groceries home in. They used to be free. Swiss Nestle owns a lot of cocoa and coffee plantations in Africa. Just wear sunglasses to avoid the scans. Let's see. Puerto Rico is in for what is that? I'm not sure exactly. I know the Puerto Rican. Didn't the Puerto Rican governor say she's in for Trump? Let's see. A lot of food and plants are imported into the EU from Africa, and cold European climate cannot produce the food they require in their cold climates. The German EU own a lot of farmland in Africa. They have to show you, so they have your consent. Wow, that's good. I'm expecting God's Great Reset to happen. Let's see. Africa is very resource rich in gold and minerals, etc.
Let me check Periscope for some comments here. I haven't been able to monitor that as much as I have been lately. Let's see. Such projection, everything they accuse they are doing. Well said, Mary Alice. It was 2017 when Fauci was on a board with the Gates Foundation talking about global pandemic.
Yeah.
Coming in a few years, hence 2020, the 2020 Titanic. Let's see. Yes, we saw that the camera was out of focus there. Yes, just getting to the comments. Is our dog walking and care business back up to running and normal? Yes, we've been busier than ever before. Really?
I think everybody went on vacation right before the election.
No, they totally did because they're going to get locked down. But anyway, so to round off the good news, back to Prince Charles. They have one shot at this. It's like a slingshot around the earth or something. They can't. They will miss. Mm-hmm. They will miss. But that doesn't mean that they aren't trying.
Yeah.
They are, and they're already proving that they can't hit the target. And they're going to try to do whatever they can to still hit it, but they won't. And I want you to be encouraged by that. But it's going to get rocky in between. And if you want to preserve your wealth, you need to be investing in gold and silver.
Because vegan food makes you weak, therefore more controllable.
Well said.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's the end. I was going to play another one of his. I
had promised that we would play our video at the end, but I don't think we have time.
Yeah, we've got to get going. I wonder.
So instead of playing it, you'll just have to go and watch our clip on it. All right. So this is a 2-part Resistance Chicks. Please go and watch. I'm asking you to go and watch the video that we filmed yesterday
with Mikaza.
It says special report. I think special episode, special report, special episode. You can go into our videos and find it. Watch it there. You won't want to miss it. It's so impactful. Something that happened to us this week.
If you guys just joined us, we interviewed a guy here who's training in leadership, first world leadership, to go back to Zimbabwe to, they have the coalition, a Democrat alliance there in Zimbabwe. He is one of the leaders in the opposition party to Mugabe's party. They want to rebuild Zimbabwe. And I'm very excited. We got to meet him. We got to interview him. And we want every country to be great.
Yeah.
We want Poland to be great. We want Zimbabwe to be great. We want South Africa to be great. We want every country in South America to be great. We as Christians want every nation to be flourishing and using what God has given each nation.
God is moving on such a huge front, guys,
and for His creation to be loved. And the creation isn't loved through the increase in the push and the robotics and this push for the Green New Deal is not about anything green. It's all about technology, which is not green.
Right.
Okay, so...
and it loses its power the more we expose it.
Yeah.
And guys, we're going to come out on the other side of this so victorious. The kingdom of God spreading to all the nations.
Yes.
Where every knee bows and every tongue confesses that Jesus Christ is Lord.
Amen.
So, all right, you guys, we're going to sign off for now. We will be back on Wednesday if you want more hope and encouragement.
Yes.
I think that it was going to be 1 episode. It turned into 2. Now it's going to be 3.
Of exposing Cyrus Schofield's reference Bible and where the fake rapture came and things like that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. You won't want to miss it. You can find it on our podcast. You can download these episodes and listen to them on the go at www.resistancechicks.com. Please like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We put out so much news on those platforms during the week. You won't even have time to watch it all, really, and to read all the articles. But please be following us there. Patriot Gallery did a show last night. I haven't watched it. I don't know what it's about, but I can guarantee it's awesome. I shall probably upload it on Mass Faith 3 later today or tomorrow, but you can check it out on Resistance Chicks Resistance Chicks YouTube channel.
And I want to make a little about the colonization. The settlers and the immigrants that did so well in South Africa for hundreds of years and in Zimbabwe were not making a colony. They were not colonizers. They were settlers and immigrants. I just want to make that clear.
No, that's really good. It's really good. All right. We love you guys. God loves you. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
If it's the truth.
if it is the truth. All right. Be blessed today, guys. Bye.